Welcome, everybody, to Tip of the Spear Veteran Roundtable. How is everybody doing? Today is Wednesday, the last Wednesday of the month of June. Hopefully, everybody's doing all right and had a good week so far. So let's go around the table and tell everybody how you doing. So, Miss Candace, how are you doing, and how's your day been?
Why you gotta call me out?
Because you're to the right of me, bro.
Yeah, but I'm gonna lie and I'm gonna say I'm good, but I'm here.
There you go. There you go.
My day was
All
great
right.
because it rained and it brought some cold weather in, so I am all kinds of good now.
Well, that's good. And I'm still praying for you and your unspoken family member that needs the prayers at the present moment in time. Uh,
It's okay. We
and
can
then
say it's my sister, but other than that, yeah, it's personal. But yeah, my sister's struggling right now. But thank you.
you're welcome. And like Mr. Herbert J.R. Showalter just says, ladies first. So, Miss Carol Lee, how are you, my dear?
I am doing good. Doing well. Just same. I'm actually right there with Candace with the weather. So I lost power, so had to wait for the router and everything else to kick back up. So I could get kicked off again. You never know.
Nice. Yeah, I was looking at the radar just now, and you're still getting pretty much slapped in the face there in
Oh,
Clarksville
nice.
area.
What's
So,
new?
yeah. It's kind of it always comes through Clarksville for some reason. I just don't understand why it comes through that area right there pretty bad. All right, so Rich LaMonica says his power is not stable right now. Well, Rich, when you get available, brother, jump on whenever you're ready, man. We'll be sitting here waiting on you. Let's move over to Mr. Travis Partington with Oscar Mike Radio. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you, David. It's good to
Man,
be here.
glad to have you back, man. This is your second time on Tip of the Spear Veterans Roundtable. Glad to have you back. You're what did they say about you? You got a
I
voice
got
for
face for
radio.
radio. Face for
Yeah,
radio.
face for radio. There we go. So yeah, I'm super excited to have you back. And then let's move over to Mr. Brian Roof with Every Day's a Saturday USMC. How are you, sir?
What's going on, brother? Not much, man. If wasn't any better, I don't know what I would be doing.
Well, you're out there in sunny California, man. Hot, hot, hot out there in
I'm
California.
in the desert part of California now. I'm not in that where you see these commercials and it's all.
Okay,
Where are
so
you
you're
at in California?
I'm in a place called Lancaster. It's in the high desert. It's 97
Yeah,
degrees outside with some nice wind. So it makes it a little hot out
I stayed in
nice.
Hesperia one time.
here. Oh yeah, that place gets hot too. That's nice
Yeah,
desert.
it is.
All right,
Desert.
and then we got a newcomer to the show. Let's have Chris Elder with milltovet.com introduce himself. How are you, Chris?
And I'm doing great. It's raining in Washington State, so I know, surprise. Um,
Rainy Washington.
yeah, I mean, I got to do some fencing on my farm, and now I'm just outside watching an inspector look at a house. So I'm doing great, doing fantastic.
Nice, nice. What? I'm just listening to text messages there. All right, so introduce yourself because people don't know who you are on the tip of the spear that normally watch it. So introduce yourself real quick if you don't mind.
Yeah, what's up, Rich LaMonica? I see you out there commenting. We part of the Mill to Vet. We are a podcast that talks mainly about the transition out of the military, and we love to get veterans' perspectives on their different transitions. And then what I also do is I talk to resources, and I bring them on the show, and I kind of dissect what they got to offer. And then my goal is to find people that actually use their resources and get their take on what it was like back in the day when you'd be out in the smoke pit or you talk to those sea lawyers, for those Navy folks that know what I'm talking about. People that got the first, like their opinion on how it worked or how it actually worked for them. Because, there's over like 60 something thousand different nonprofits out there that are supposed to be helping our community, but like, do they actually work? So that's kind of what we were going for. But mainly, we do bring veterans on and share stories, and um, it's been one of the best things that has ever happened to my life, being able to be in this position where I get to hear all these stories and be a part of their journey. So it's a real honor to do this.
Awesome, man. Yeah, thank you for coming on here. Me and you've been talking for a while now, and we're trying to lock down getting you on, Homefront Sit Rep, and then we're also trying to lock down the Homefront Sit Rep team, get in on Mill to Vet to talk about what we do at Homefront Sit Rep. Because we highlight all those veteran service organizations from around the country. That's the main purpose of what we do here at Homefront Sit Rep, and we also bring in veteran business owners and veteran authors and other veterans just to tell their story as well. But our main focus is the veteran service organizations from around the country. What's up, Jeremy Daniels? How are you, sir? What's up, Mr. James Thornton? How are you, sir? Michael Whitlatch from Wheeling, West Virginia. How are you, sir?
Look at our peoples.
Yeah, so our peoples are coming in. Brian, Travis, Carol Lee, if you haven't went up there and added your destinations at the top, if you want to, go ahead. You should be able to do it while we're doing this.
I actually just did it. So
okay, that because you should be able to. And Chris, if you want to send it to Mill to Vet too, you could do it as well. Up there at the top, you should be able to send it to your destinations as well. But no, I'm super.
Or is that different because I'm under it already?
You're already underneath of it. You can't. You won't be able to, my friend.
I'm trying, Carolee. I just volunteer here.
She just sleeps here. That's hey, and then so Michael Bauer. I'm gonna tell you a little story about this guy. Gave me a heart attack when I got an email. So my brother died in 1994. He was 10 years old. His name was Michael Bauer. So I get home from work and I take my youngest daughter to work because she had to be at work at 5. Well, I pull in, we're sitting there waiting for her to, her time to go in. I open up my email and all of a sudden I see Michael Bauer wants to be friends on Facebook. And I'm talking, this is 30 years ago. My brother passed away 30 years ago. And I never in a million years thought I'd ever see Michael Bauer wants to be friends on Facebook because, but anyway, so he found our podcast through, I'm assuming Candace, because him and Candace were friends. And he just watched his first live the other day. So Michael, welcome back, sir. Thank you. And no heart attacks this time. But no, I'm super excited about tonight. We got some pretty good topics to talk about. Because there's all kinds of crazy shit going on in the world right now.
Yes, there is.
I mean, ranging from the attempted coup in Bolivia that just recently happened. President Biden has approved military or U.S. military contractors to go to Ukraine. This one kind of, I'm on the fence on this one. The next topic that I'm going to bring up, we could talk about it, or we don't have to talk about it. Biden,
probably mine. Oh, well, no, it's not. Never mind.
No,
maybe
Biden to pardon veterans found guilty under U.S.'s military gay sex ban. So if you were in the don't ask, don't tell, and you were found to be gay, you were pretty much convicted at the time, and so he's going to pardon those. Which Mill to Vet? Why did Mill to Vet pop up?
I'm adding into the stream. I'm on my phone.
Oh, okay. I got you. All right. So my daughter, who is gay, she came out in 5th grade. I don't think they should have ever been charged. That's my opinion on it, but we'll discuss that later. I know Travis has got something that he wants to talk about. I'm sure Brian, Carol Lee's got some things. Candace has got some things. So we're going to get into it. Who wants to go first?
I want to talk about what you were just talking about.
Okay. Which one?
I have so many questions.
All right, let me bring up. So this is from the Biden to pardon veterans found guilty under U.S. military's gay sex ban. That's what you want to talk about?
Well, briefly, I have a curiosity, and not that any of us are going to have the answers, but so just hypothetically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go hypothetical. There's a person in the military during Don't Ask, Don't Tell who experiences MST. You know where I'm going with this. So, because of what came out during the investigation, they were threatened with either you drop the charges and we leave you alone, or if you press charges, we're going to charge you with Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So, if Biden pardons these, does that go back and take these military people that were threatened on these other cases? Are they allowed to bring that back up?
That's a good question.
Sorry, that's where my mind went when you mentioned that. And I was like,
Well-
well, not that it is as close to me as it used to be, but it is a
See, I
scenario.
mean, it depends on what the policy was and if they didn't follow the policy and they got charged at the time. Because then what you're going to say is that you can go back and say this for people that maybe smoked marijuana or something
Right.
and got in trouble. And then you can say, well, they lessened the law now. Now we got to go back and for every single person that got busted for smoking marijuana, now we got to take that back. You know what
Exactly.
I mean?
So that's where my question comes in.
And we
because this
open that
person
Pandora's
was not-
box.
Right. So
Really,
this
once
person
you open
wasn't
it up for
charged.
one thing,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Oh, it'd be a shit show. It'd be a total shit show. Like, this individual wasn't charged with Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but also wasn't able to press charges on MST.
So yeah, that would be one of those.
Yes, Jeremy, you're right. Welcome to the clusterfuck. That's exactly what would happen with that.
I would assume, since charges were dropped, because they were threatened, and so there was nothing. So there was nothing that came up. No charges were, and I'm assuming statutory limit of statutory whatever the you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but does that change because it was military and there was such, like, think about that, because there was another law in place with Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and then you're pardoning these things that talk about Pandora's box.
Yeah, I mean, it's something
You-
that I guess you would have to talk to a lawyer and see what the lawyer. But
It's
first,
like peeling an onion, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just start peeling them layers. You know,
Yeah.
you're going to start peeling them layers back. And
Yep.
it's one of those things you're never going to get to the end.
right,
you know?
Right.
So this is what it says. President Joe Biden announced Wednesday that he will pardon LGBTQ veterans who were charged under a former military law used to ban same-sex relations in the armed forces. The pardon impacts veterans who were charged under a previous version of a law in the military's Uniform Code of Military Justice that criminalized sodomy, including between two consenting individuals. Although the U.S. Supreme Court struck down anti-sodomy laws nationwide in a 2003 ruling, the 63-year-old regulation stayed on the books in the UCMJ Uniform Code of Military Justice until Congress amended the law in 2013 to remove consensual sexual acts.
So this only applies to sodomy? So it's only applying to men?
Well, that's how they charged everybody, whether you're male or female, or female, male. That's how they. And there was some straight couples that got charged with sodomy as well. But don't kiss and tell. Don't go around telling people, hey, she let me use the back door last night, because you can get in trouble for it.
That almost takes us
that
back
would
to
be
Paul Bartley and her
that would
talking
be
about,
it.
like, they know her day of conception. Like, that's some crazy shit. Like,
Right?
the military
Yes.
doesn't need to know those things.
Yeah,
Like,
so,
it's really not your business.
yeah, it's definitely not anybody's business what I do behind closed doors at my house. I mean, but people.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Uh-oh.
When we're in the military, we're government property. It's
Yeah.
absolutely Uncle Sam's business what we do. If
True.
that were the case,
Get a sunburn.
So you're
was a-
okay with them knowing every time you went and fiddled around with somebody? Like you want to give them details too?
Well, I mean,
No,
if
but
you're
they
in,
didn't issue you someone to go have sex with, right? They didn't issue you. That's what their whole thing is back in the day too. Like the Marine Corps saying was, if we wanted you to have wife and kids, we would have issued you them. So
Yep.
don't make them our problem, right? It's
Wow.
basically
Okay.
how it used to be. I know things have changed, but a lot of it was, we didn't issue these to you guys. It's not our problem, and it would be kind
Was
of
that
the
a
same way.
Marine
I would
thing?
think it was a Marine thing for sure. I mean, I
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
know.
because Willis has
It was
talked
a
about
Marine
like you guys
saying for
weren't allowed
sure.
to
No,
mess
Well,
Navy
it was a
definitely has said they haven't issued your family and your sea bag. So
Yeah.
that's
I'm
definitely
sure everybody has
an
their own saying.
all
Yeah,
forces.
Well,
And
that makes sense.
I find it funny though that they're doing this, right? But you as the service member, you would still have to request clemency through the Department of Justice. So you would still have to go through a process. It's not like going to be like everybody's taken care of. No, you still have to submit paperwork, and who knows what those forms are going to be. That's the real tragic part about this, because we all know that you put another form in front of a veteran and they're pretty much going to be like, why do I have to do this form? You know that you kicked me out because of this. This should just be an automatic. You already did all the paperwork to process me out. Why am I having to do this again? And so
bureaucracy.
that's one thing that like we really I think as a community we should be like, okay, cool. I don't think we should have kicked all these people out. Yes, they weren't following the orders, but I'll tell you right now, there are a ton of military members that don't follow every single rule and regulation in there, and because they chose to, they're biologically suited towards that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not their fault. Like that's a whole entire thing, and I'm glad they're getting rid of this. But now they're making it a whole entire another procedure where you got to go through to do this. It's in my mind, it's ridiculous. It's dumb.
Yeah.
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 No, it's great to be pardoned. It's not something that they should have been faulted for, but
I mean, it's
what
definitely
does it open up?
it's definitely going to open up Pandora's box, like Brian said. It's and peeling back those layers, because there's so much that's going to be entailed with this, especially if it's more current. And then, statute of limitations is what I was thinking of just a minute ago.
Mhm.
Depending on how far back. I mean, granted, Bill Cosby is, getting charged with rape from like 1980 and shit. So I don't know if there is a statute of limitation for that. So said
There is.
person,
It's like 7 years. Like I can tell you that just in the civilian world, it's 7 years. Unless, like
I think it
here,
varies from
let's
state
go
to state.
personal. In my case, like I have a child from it. So there isn't a
Right.
statute of limitation. But yeah, that's confusing. How can they charge Cosby when there's a statute of limitation? But what I'm like,
Well, it does. I think it does. It varies from state to state, though. I mean,
okay.
it depends on what state he's getting charged at. It goes based off of those laws. And if just because we all live in the United States of America doesn't mean we all have the same laws. It
Right.
varies from state to state. You know what I mean? I've kind of talked about that before,
But you
Yeah.
would think with military, it would be more federal rather than state to state.
and
It's military.
it is, but yeah, it depends on how they. I guess. I mean, on the military level, it is only tried one way. The UCMSJ or
Right.
whatever.
UCMJ,
Yeah.
Uniform
Well,
Code of
I'm
Military.
wondering
Yeah,
is
there you
if
go. It's
I would
been
like
a
to
long
see
time.
I'd like to see the
That's
forms.
it.
I'd like to understand, is there indemnification clauses where you can't sue the federal government for any damages, or is the officers that sign your paperwork for you to get discharged indemnified from you suing them for lost wages or mental stress? I mean, are we going to do this for the people who got kicked out over COVID?
Mm.
I mean, I'm very sorry for your son's current situation, man, but if he hadn't taken that jab, he'd probably be a healthy young man right now.
Yeah.
Well, 100%.
So-
100%.
So what do you say to those people who got kicked out and now we're finding out, guys who are in their 20s are dropping dead? Are they going to be Are they going to be, forgiven? To your point, it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, because Travis, that's even a closer point that's actually very valid, because that is a true thing, and they're starting, the studies and all the things that are coming out of all this, is showing that, and they also reversed a lot of it too, where they changed their mind, right? Like
They did.
they were wishy-washy with it, right?
Yeah.
Because recruiting numbers went down.
We're taking pressure from, the social pressure and this and that. I don't know what they did, but I know that they went one way with it and then changed their mind.
Yeah.
And now here we are today. And I mean, it's a shame that there's so many. I would love to know the number of military members that were, discharged due to this whole thing. I mean, I
Right.
bet they don't want to talk about those numbers.
And
But
really,
I mean, can someone look that up real quick and see if we can find that?
I
Wait,
don't
are we
know.
talking about the jab or don't ask, don't tell?
The jab right now. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just curious in terms of how
All
many
right. So,
people got kicked out because of that. Because that's another thing that you would have to open that up to, in my opinion.
Right.
all right. So here's what it says here. According to the Department of Defense, more than 32,000 troops were separated from the military under its homosexual conduct policy between 1980 and 2011. Of those, roughly 14,000 LGBTQ troops were issued less than honorable discharges from the armed forces.
Mhm.
So
That's a good
now
amount. That's a good amount, though.
now here's the
In
thing:
terms of the military.
if they got it less than honorable, and then this gets overturned, well, now they can go back and their DD 214 can be updated to honorable.
Well, maybe.
Well, but
maybe.
can it?
But Brian was
That's
asking
my
about the jab.
Do what?
Brian was asking about the jab. How many people were out because of the jab?
8,400, approximately 8,400 military personnel were discharged for refusing to receive the COVID-19 vaccine, according to.
But then, how many do we have that are like Carol Lee's son that had reactions and things like? I mean, are those numbers in there?
Those-
Oh, I would
you're
love to see
never
those
gonna know.
numbers.
No, you'll never
That's
know.
gonna
You'll
that'd be a
never
hard
know
number, because they're not gonna blame it on the shot. They're gonna say,
Correct.
well, he had pre-existing conditions or
Mhm.
Yep.
this and that and the other, and blame it on everything else, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is, and so all those veteran or all of those military service members who had an adverse reaction, I would almost guarantee they did not get put into the CDC's conglomerate of adverse reactions in with those numbers.
So it's interesting. Michael Whitlatch is asking, is that partly why the retention rate is down? I mean,
that was part of it.
There's a lot of reasons. I mean,
That's a small part.
that's probably another fraction of it.
But they're no longer requiring the COVID shot.
Right.
And so that's been off the table for some time now, which is a good thing. But yeah, there's a lot of other stuff.
You talk about retention. A lot of these guys leave because there's more money to be made on the outside. $21 an hour is minimum wage here in California. You know what I mean? So some of these PSCs, privates, don't see that kind of money for a long time. I imagine, once they start to learn, like, oh, I can get a job out here and it's making this money, and then they've been sitting there being treated like crap or something by a bad leader or something that made them have a bad a bad time while they were in. I mean, that's the things that kind of push them out. Bad leadership, lack of pay, and things of that kind of thing. I mean, that's what drives them guys out.
Well, in politics, let's face it, politics as a whole. Yeah, politics has a big factor in that, because it just, I mean, you can see it every term, right? Every new president, you'll see those hills and valleys, because people agree or don't agree with whatever is the hot topic.
Yeah. So Rich says lots of factors for retention rates. They are trying to beg jab guys to come back in. Most are giving the bird to that. No, I would agree. I mean, and Jeremy Daniels says right here, how many were medically exempt, how many were religiously exempt.
They weren't letting them do that. They weren't allowing
Nope.
a lot of people were trying to get the religious exemption, and they were saying no, no. I've seen a couple stories like on TikTok or things like that. Guys that got out and they're talking about how depressed they are and stuff over all this whole thing because they really, some of them wanted to be lifelongers. You know what I mean? They were married to the military and ready to do the 20-year stint. There's not a lot of people out there, if you look at it, that want to do 20 years.
Right.
You're sitting there forcing these guys out over a freaking jab. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, and now I'm hearing that a lot of those who had medical exemptions, or excuse me, both medical, I guess, and religious exemptions, who ended up getting kicked out for refusing the shot, are actually now starting to come together and fight back because the shot is no longer mandated.
And good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them. And I hope that they get some kind of traction for that because, you know, I feel like those people, and especially the ones that were like, because I imagine there's guys that were 8 years plus that fall in that category, and now they're gone, and now you're having a hard time having retention, and the Navy's lowering their standards to get people to join. I mean, what are we doing? You know, I mean, we're creating this world where no one wants to be in the military, no one wants to be in law enforcement. I mean, we're getting to that level where we're going to have to start lowering standards to make these type of things available. Then you get what you get.
Yeah.
Well, and they are. And like, I had my Coast Guard guys call me this morning for a different reason, but I was asking them, like, how is it going? And he was like, we're sending people out left and right now. Because they called me about having a meal for when they're sending out 5 recruits here in a couple of weeks. And he said, I can't tell you like how many people we have coming in and we're sending out to boot camp. And I don't know if, I know that a few months back, like they told me that they had actually changed the standards of joining the Coast Guard. And like, where does that take us? When you start lowering that standards, like, one, are you proud to join anymore? 2, like, what kind of structure is that giving our military, and what kind of laughing stock are we all over the world? Like,
well,
it's
the cycle that we always go through. I mean, because you got to remember back in the earlier days, way before my time, you had a choice. If you got in trouble with the law, you had a choice: go to military, go to jail.
Right.
And it's that cycle that we're always going through, you know, because the military has always had its ups and downs with the budget cuts and this, you know, like the Marine Corps. Look how many times they wanted to disband the Marine Corps.
Right.
And, you know, they cut certain programs out of the Marine Corps, like the Raiders, the Marine Corps Raiders. They did away with them. Well, they're bringing them back. Go ahead, Brian.
The only thing that kind of different, to caveat out there, is we appreciated history a lot more, bro.
Yeah.
We're dealing with a generation who don't care about history as much anymore.
No, what is it? The FOMO? Is that what they call it?
And things like that. So the thing about it is, bro, it's going to change in a dramatic way because, you know, everybody is changing, right? Like the way that like history's being portrayed, the lack of care for history and things like that, you know, and that's the thing, like, especially one thing in the Marine Corps, man, they hammered history into us. Like,
oh yeah,
we appreciated the ones that came before us and things like that. They made us know, right? We learned about Chesty Pooler, Oakland May Johnson, you know, all these amazing people that led the way for us, right? Well, now that the education system isn't really into the history and all that stuff, we're having a lack of appreciation from these generations. So a lot of people aren't wanting to go join because they hear all these negative outputs of it, right? Like, oh, veterans aren't taken care of, you know, when they get out. So, I mean, who wants to go into something when they feel like, wow, I'm going to go in there, I could come out broke and not be taken care of? I mean, and that's, you know, they hear all these things day in, day out as young. So it's kind of hard, right?
Yeah.
They're starting to they're getting to see the negative part of it all.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're losing Travis or not.
Travis, what happened?
I don't know. You're frozen.
Well, your face is there. Like,
You're blinking.
but you're talking. We can hear you. Oh,
Yeah, I think your camera like froze.
Let me come back out and come right back in. Hang on a second.
All right. All right. So JR says retention rate is junk. Now versions of the draft are coming back, which is something Candace wanted to touch on. In a way, there are almost no Patriots. And here's what I'm going to say. All right. This is probably going to be an unpopular opinion.
Uh-oh.
And here, and I think once you hit 18, once you graduate high school, you have two choices: join the military or go to college, and that's your two choices. And Travis is back. So Travis, you probably didn't hear that, but this is probably an unpopular opinion. So I think
what happens if you don't go either one?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, you have to be look at the countries over there that make everybody that hits the legal age of 18, say Korea, South Korea. Everybody in South Korea serves in the military. Look at Israel.
Well,
Everybody,
the UK.
Everybody serves in the military.
Sure.
And
I don't think it's a bad thing.
I think it would.
I don't either.
I think it would be
either
awesome.
military
At
or
least like a
college.
2-year
Either way, you're going for structure.
But here's
And
the
this is
thing:
fun.
when it comes to college, who's paying for it, right?
That's the problem. And then
Yeah.
you get put in like a 50% tax bracket as everybody else in the world because we got free education. Yeah,
Right.
well,
Yeah.
where's your taxes at, right? I mean, you start paying 60-70% taxes. Is it so free? No, it's not. You know what I mean? But like, I think that to gain appreciation for your country and the
Right.
place that you actually live in, it is an honorable thing to go do. And you get appreciation because they teach you a lot of things, not just how to go and fight and defend, but they also teach you how we got to where we are.
Yeah.
And some really, I mean, I don't think that I gained so much knowledge that I did being in the Marine Corps. And I got really life experience knowledge, right? Not just this street cred, type stuff, but also
Right.
like a real appreciation of what we came from. And I think that they're going to probably be forced to be back to a draft if they were ever to want to fulfill the military, because it is hard now to convince these kids to go in, especially the pay rates. There's not a lot of opportunity for when you get out either, right? There's a lot.
I look at it in this way. We join the military, us veterans, and we come out with a lot of intangible stuff, knowledge, honor, duty, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, when you get out of the military as I was a terminal lance because of budget cuts. So I'm going to say E4 to E5 as an enlisted and 001 to 03 as an officer. You've got to move back somewhere. And in my state, the average rent in the Boston area is, $3,200 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So if you move to the Boston area, you need to have a 700 credit score and at least 12,000 in the bank to move here. In my state, minimum. In my state, because I've talked to some of these people, understand that, we're going to start losing military, veterans to other states that offer different stuff. So I'm like, forget the discounts at, Applebee's and all that. How about, we get a tax credit for buying a home, or we get a significant tax abatement for a house. We don't have to pay excise taxes. We don't have to pay for, public transportation passes. We truly get an education credit that doesn't have to go through the GI Bill. You serve your country from your state, you come back to your state, your education is paid for. Because here's the thing, they're doing this for the illegal aliens / undocumented migrants, dreamers that are coming in the country. They can do it for that population.
Absolutely.
But they can't do it for
vote?
What I'm trying to say is make being a veteran an actual tangible thing again and put some real value behind it. Not that I didn't get value of my Marine Corps experience. I did, but you know what? I'm expected to pay my, if I buy a house, they want the property taxes. They don't care that I was a veteran. I got to pay my
Yeah,
excise
but
taxes.
you guys were a totally generation, and you joined for a totally different purpose than what people are joining for in this
Yeah, but
generation.
when you got out,
It's that FOMO thing.
when you got
But you
out
had
though,
something to be proud of.
when you got
You
out though,
know?
it was easier to in some ways it was easier to know, hey, you know what, that boss I was working for served in Vietnam or World War II. Hey, sign that guy up. Don't worry about the other
Yeah.
guys. Now you're not put in the front of the pack anymore. You're really not.
Right.
Yeah. And speaking of history, Marine Corps history today for the Marines out there, what's today? Do y'all know?
Happy birthday.
It's Chesty Puller's birthday. Today is Chesty Puller's birthday. Just trying to lighten it up a little bit. I want
Well,
to
they
thank
never talk about birthdays in the Marines except for the Marine Corps birthday. So
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Chesty's is actually November 10th.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
No, it says born June 26th, 1898. Chesty
no,
Puller.
every one of us is November 10th, bro.
No.
Get it?
Well, yeah, true. I want to give a shout out.
Thank you.
Brian Hobson, my brother from another mother out there. Michael, to answer your question here, are you including trade schools as college? Yes, because trade schools are awesome as well. I highly recommend doing trades because I'm in a trade myself. What about, and then DJ Played Nice says, what about other public service, Head Start, Red Cross, etc.? Think Peace Corps, but domestic. Yeah, if you go into the Peace Corps, I'm fine with that. I mean, but you have to do some type of military service or college, whether that's how I think about it. And my wife was like, no, I don't
No,
agree
get
with
some
that.
coasties, man. Coast Guard.
Yeah.
They could be on our shores. We could.
Hey, they're recruiting like crazy right now, and they actually want to come on a podcast and talk about it.
Nice. I don't agree with the college. I agree with the military. I think 2 years minimum.
Yeah.
I think the college thing is a stretch. I
Right.
I didn't go to college till I was in my late 20s. And it's just one of those things that when everybody's circumstance is different. Mine, I wanted out. I wanted out of the house.
Yeah.
I wanted, out of the town. I wanted out. So it was a matter of making money. And, I was a productive member of society in that regard. Right. So,
but not only that, but you hear about all these people that go to college, they get a degree in basket weaving, and then they become, something else, right? I mean, it's just that's the one thing when it comes to college. You hear it all the time, like, oh, I'm a communications major, but here I am, working projects and stuff like that. Well, I mean, that's the one thing that I feel like our college system kind of fails, right?
Mhm.
Is they lead these people all on these false hopes, like, yeah, come be this. Well,
Yeah.
shit, there's only like 30 positions for this job.
Yeah.
If you go look at it, like, to be some kind of a, it's just crazy how much they drive that kind of stuff. And then they make a huge debt to someone. Someone has to pay a huge price to go to college.
Oh yeah.
I'm a pretty penny. My daughter's in UC San Diego right now. And that's a pretty penny to go there.
Yeah.
And I did my schooling through Colorado Tech University online. I think that was around $60,000 to go through the bachelor's course, all the way through. But it was a pretty money. And I mean, at the end of the day, it kind of helped me. But I mean, what they taught me did not transition to my actual job, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally like
it comes down to money.
That's a check the box.
Yeah.
It's a check the box thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, in this world anymore, you have to make some kind of a commitment, right? You need to either have a 4-year commitment to a college or to the military or even to a trade school. But you got to show employers that a lot of people now are not hiring, people right out of high school, right? They want to see that to go get a career job, you got to have something kind of under your belt, some kind of a certificate, degree, these kind of things. They want to see that you know how you can have a commitment to things, right?
Right.
They want to be able to see that when you want to go and sign up for this job, you're not going to leave us in 6 months because you don't like it.
Yeah, no, I'm prime example of that. I got a degree in criminal justice. Now, granted, when I got out of the Marine Corps the first time, I started going through ITT Tech. I was going to be an architect. I want to be an architect. That's what I wanted to do. And then got recalled back in, and then went back to ITT Tech. They crumbled, so they went under. And then in 2000, I think it was 2005, I went back and got a degree in criminal justice because I was going to be, I wanted to be a police officer. That was what I wanted to do. And um, I got a degree, didn't get on the police department, got a job in telecommunications, and I've been in telecommunications ever since. So I got a degree that I'm still paying on. I'm 45, getting ready to be 46, and I'm still paying this college down. Luckily, I have a great wife at home that takes care of that, and she makes sure everything's paid for and stuff. But Rich made a good point right here. I'm gonna bring
I
this
thought
up.
Obama forgave the debt, man. I thought
Marine
you
needs a
got
good
forgiven debt, man.
Well, so Biden was supposed to do up to $10,000 too, and I ain't seen that shit. We applied for it, but still ain't seen it. But Rich says mandatory service for 2 years after initial training you have from the day you turn 18 or graduate high school till your 28th birthday to accomplish this. If you fail to do so, you are punished. And I'm right there with him. I think you have to do military service, and if you put a time limit on it, so like Rich says 18 to 28, that's 10 years, you have to accomplish 2 years of military service, and that starts from the day you get out of boot camp. And I would even put in there your school too. So like after you get done with like School of Infantry or AIT or whatever, you your time starts when you actually hit the fleet. I'm gonna use fleet for Marines, but I guess it would be the same thing with Army and stuff like that. But so yeah, last 4 months in the ROK Army and messed up a task, so he had to serve 2 more years. Holy cow! So the guy who sings Gangnam Style, but no, I would agree that everybody in the United States has to go to military service, at least 2 years of military service.
So you know what? This is a great gateway into how do we feel about the possibility of a draft happening?
I have an opposing opinion. I like my volunteer force. Don't get me wrong, man. I was one of those guys that was getting in trouble, and if I didn't have the Navy, I would have gone a completely different path. Now retired, I get the privilege of hosting a podcast. Who knew I would ever be able to do that? So the military did a lot for me. I understand. And I've even thought, hey, it'd be great if people would join the Peace Corps or go to college, go to trade school, be a productive part of society. But that's the thing. I served so that way my kids would have the freedom to choose what the hell they wanted to do.
Right.
I don't want that mandated service. Man, we all know what mandatory fun looks like. Everybody in here should know what mandatory fun looks like. It's not fun. And mandatory service is the same thing. Now, I do believe that we should probably get into having our kids clean up after themselves at their schools. Maybe do something like that. If I was to implement something, it wouldn't be mandatory
Community
service
type thing.
It would be more of let's get rid of the janitor's role and have the janitor supervise the kids inside the schools on cleaning. Why not do something like that?
Well, where'd he go?
He disappeared. We're missing two.
Yeah. Travis and him just dropped out. They'll come back.
But you know what? I kind of, the way I feel about it is when you force people to do something, they're not gonna go into it and give you a great job. You're probably not gonna have a great output.
Right.
You're right.
And so the more that you force someone to do something, the likelihood is they're just gonna drag their feet.
Yeah.
They're gonna end up getting you guys killed. They're gonna be the slow ones. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying, bro? Like when the shit hits the fan, you need someone who wants to be there, right? It wasn't forced to be there, because like I said, being forced to do something, they're gonna put their heels in and just sit there and drag their ass.
Yeah.
You know,
I
that's
don't
just my
disagree
opinion.
with that, Brian, but think about Vietnam, right? And the draft and how they were forced to work together just to survive and get out of there.
Different generation,
Right.
generation,
It
built
was
different,
agreed.
and they were
But part
born
of the
by
reason where we're at today is because the generations coming up have not had to deal with what the older generations have had to deal with. So you put them in
we've been
that
blessed
position.
because of the ones before
Exactly.
us.
So you put them in a position where they have to step up, right? They're going to rise to that occasion.
I mean, I've seen both sides of it,
Whoa.
right?
There's a lot of echo down there.
It's
Travis.
Travis.
There you go.
Is it gone?
No.
No.
All right, let's see.
You, Chris?
All right, what about now?
Oh.
It's Chris.
It's gone.
That's what.
Yeah, I don't hear the echo now.
No, I don't hear it anymore either.
You know, Carolee, that's one of the most confusing times for me ever. You look at the draft of the Vietnam, right? These at that time, these men were forced to go into a war that, you know, nobody really knew what was going on or why we were fighting it. And then, you know, they went over and they fought for their lives, and so many of them lost it. And the ones that came back, they got shunned for something they didn't choose to do. I've never been able to comprehend. I understand if people were upset that there was a war and stuff going on, but why would you treat these human beings that were forced into a situation? Why would you treat them like shit? Like literally, treating them. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. And it's because it wasn't a war that was directly directed at the US in that sense. It was a fact that it was overseas. Nobody could visually see what's happening or why it's happening, and so they couldn't comprehend why they're even over there.
But they knew
I
that
like
they
to
didn't
think
use
that
it.
human nature is. I like to think that the human nature in the Vietnam veterans were like, you know what? We're going to be in this shit together. Let's do it together so we can try to get out of this shit together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're being forced to do it. Let's go over there and give them hell and try to get back home. I mean,
but it wasn't a secret.
That's how I think.
Yeah.
It wasn't a secret. Everybody knew there was a draft. They knew these men were forced into it. So why treat them so horribly when they came home?
No,
instead of fighting or going, you know, and protesting against those who put them in that situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I want to give a shout out to Miss Tracy Two Step with Patriots Inside the Wire military broadcast. If you haven't checked out her podcast, go check it out. She's a Gold Star mother. She has a podcast that focuses on a little bit of everything, but mainly music in the Texas area. So Patriots Inside the Wire with Miss Tracy Two Step. So let's answer some of these comments. No draft coming. Think about what happens this year. All this is about politics. We need views. Oh, let's start the draft talk. And I can kind of see that as well. That, you know, elections coming up. So let's talk about drafting people.
A lot of things come up during election time.
Yeah. And then Rich says, there will not be a draft. It is fodder for votes.
Also, I do want to point out that Biden says that he proposes.
Hey, you guys, I got somebody watching that said their video froze and they're not sure if it's just them. Can somebody in the comments answer us?
My video's playing on mine.
Well, no, not to us, but the viewers.
Yeah,
I see it playing on my side.
Yeah, it's
hey, Doc, are we still playing?
We're all good.
Yeah, I think it's
okay.
We're good.
All right. Just wanted to make sure.
But I just want to say that there's a lot of like staging and a lot of people like beating their drum, but they're really not doing anything. And the draft just cracks me up because now it's going to be an automatic thing. But yeah, it's only for males.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
And I think that this is a great segue to this conversation.
Bro.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Because what are your thoughts on it just being males are automatically drafted, and is that really fair and equal?
I
Come
think
on,
that's
you
very
have-
ironic this day and age. To be honest
Uh-huh.
with you, the way that the temperature's been on all that, I'm so shocked that they would even suggest that.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm shocked.
I have to say,
Because
and
we've
you know,
opened up
I
all
got some heat
MOSs
from
to
my
all females too,
fellow
right?
Marine Corps sisters. I said, you know, in the interest of equality, why aren't you all out there marching, saying, "Me too" for the draft? I want to join the draft. I don't see, you know, not men only. I said it seems kind of like you all of a sudden the women in this country went very, very quiet when it came to this because it got real. Well, it's not like that. I'm like, look, certainly is like that. If this were about equality first and feminism and women's rights, you'd be demanding to your politicians that you guys be included in the draft.
You know,
Yeah,
you know
I
what?
want
These, you know what it
more.
is though. These old politicians probably just dusted off the old one, like the old draft thing, and just here we go, run it. And they probably didn't even put anything on it.
I don't
because-
see any, you know, mothers of daughters saying, you know, I want my daughters to be drafted too. It's the silence is deafening.
You know,
It
so my
is.
daughter's 24 years old, and I didn't even think about that until you just said that there's a possibility that my daughter could be grabbed in that. And I don't think that she should be omitted because she's a woman. Like, my daughter's a badass, by the way, but do I want her to go? No. If it came
Well-
to it, I think it should be treated as equally for the females as it is the
Right.
males.
Well, the females have fought hard to open up all MOSs to them, right? Like there
Agreed.
was like
Right.
females were not allowed to be 0311.
Yep.
Right. I mean, they fought super hard to change that. Right. So to me, this is going backwards. You know, this is implementing an old draft,
Mm.
right? Without a new way of thinking, because, you know, our females make up a good part of our you know, our military, and we just actually had a day on what is it, June 6th to celebrate, you know,
Yep.
female veterans and stuff like that. So
Yep.
I think that's kind of crazy.
So here's one right here, Miss Susan Alloway. Thank you for jumping on. She said that I did that. Stepped up during the draft, Vietnam era Navy. That's awesome. I'd love to talk to her more offline. Just
Because don't get it wrong, there was females, right? So I mean, we don't want to ever. If there's females that went in Vietnam that actually volunteered, right? I
yeah,
mean,
and
Yeah.
there's
we don't
one right
talk
there.
about that much. Yeah.
So, Susan Alloway, if you can do me a favor, email me at homefrontsitrep@gmail.com. I would love to talk to you and have you on our show to tell your story. For one, because Vietnam era stories are dying. You know, they're going away because veterans from that era are taking their stories to the grave with them. And
Yeah.
to keep your memory alive, we want to bring your story to the forefront. There's several podcasters on here right now. All of us would love to have you on our shows just to hear your story. So definitely,
I have the utmost respect for Vietnam veterans,
same.
beyond belief. Like, I mean,
Mm.
not just, I mean, the way they were treated, but I mean, they went into a hell of a region. I mean,
Mhm.
a jungle welfare, a moist water, just boots, I mean, these guys got
Yeah.
gangrene. I mean,
Yeah.
much love and respect to any Vietnam veterans out there. Love you guys.
Oh yeah, for sure. So Susan, I'll put Candace. Can you type our email in the chat for me if you don't mind? That way she can shoot me an email. So
What
let-
is
let-
what is our email?
homefrontsitrep@gmail.com.
You're fired.
Yes. I
You
haven't been fired in a while, Carolee.
She is
Yeah.
literally working on getting fired, as you can't tell.
Oh, it's a
right?
goal. Every episode, it is a goal, and I have
Who's-
not gotten
Who's
fired.
getting
like
fired?
that.
Because I already said I was going to fire myself earlier for.
Candace gets fired at least one episode, and you got somebody coming knocking.
Hey,
on
watch
your
out, Chris. Watch your back, bro.
Yeah, watch
I
your back.
just saw
so that-
someone come up there, dude.
But yeah, if you're out there, if you're a
Neighborhood
veteran,
watch, dude. He's
Yeah.
just like, no worries. I'm just on a podcast right now, bro.
if you're
You just sit here way too long, sir.
Loitering
Oh.
and loitering and.
that's crazy.
Well, you don't know nowadays. You got men sitting in cars like in a neighborhood or something. You don't know what's happening.
Right.
Okay. Full disclosure, that was my
Hey,
client, and I just got
on a
done inspecting
laptop?
a house.
Nice.
Okay. All right, there we go. I
So
liked our story way better though, bro.
Yeah.
So
You got bags of
Untrackable-
candy and puppies in that car?
There's candy in here. Hold on.
So Untrackable says my mother is a NAM vet. Dinner conversations like no other. I can only imagine.
Right. I would love to have that conversation.
Pick that
for
brain.
sure.
Pick
Yeah,
that
sure.
brain. Get all you can out of them.
Yeah.
And you know,
Record it.
nowadays, you know, like my kids, I teach my kids if they see a Vietnam era vet, go up there and tell them the first thing, welcome home, and then thank you for your service, because those guys did not get that when they came home. And I just don't understand. Yes, they were forced to go. They served their country and they served it honorably. There were some bad apples that did some stupid shit over there, and that's what, you know, the baby killers come from and all of that stupid shit. So,
Dude, I came across these gentlemen sitting at a table, right? And saw one of them wearing a Vietnam veteran hat. And so I went over there and started talking to them, and they were all Vietnam veterans hanging out with each other. Man, I was blessed. They gave me a Vietnam veteran coin
oh, that's
that's
awesome.
when I was there. And I was just like, wow. And I was able to give them out my, cards to my show and stuff. And I was asking them, like, to, check it out if they could. But I mean, I was just in awe, just sitting there and seeing these guys, man. They're, a couple Navy guys, Marines, and one Army guy. And they were just shooting the shit, having a good time, eating their breakfast. I loved it. And I was just, loved sitting with them for a second, make sure I gave them all, my handshake and a good bear hug, and just tell them thank you so much, man. Because I like I said, I have such an admiration for that generation.
My first guest was a Vietnam era veteran. My very first guest.
Have you guys ever noticed whenever you talk with the Vietnam veterans, they typically it's hard for them to recognize that they are like influential to our generation.
It's hard to get their stories right. You got to really pry a little bit, and they glossed over a lot of things like it was no big deal.
Right.
Like, hold up, bro. I want give me the in the jungle, boots on the ground shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us that Forrest Gump story. Come on.
Yeah.
So for me, it hit differently. I got to talk to Richard Fitz Jr. He's a Gold Star son. His father, Staff Sergeant Richard Fitz Sr., was killed in Laos in 1968. He was a Green Beret.
Wow.
And to show you how different things were back then versus now, our government knew that he went down. His helicopter was shot down, and they perished on extraction. They knew that he went down. They knew where he was. They had extracted his body, and it took 21 years for our government to finally tell that family what had happened to that husband and father at the time. And and if they hadn't really pressed the issue with a bunch of other families from Vietnam, it would have taken longer. We can't even imagine that now. I mean, even from when we served, right? I mean, you can get hurt at Camp Pendleton and text your mom a picture of your owie on your cell phone, and she knows about it within 20 minutes before you even back to medical.
Right.
Us was different. I mean, there was no
Had to
texting
write a
back.
letter.
Had to write a letter, right?
Had to write a letter home.
And people in our country cannot imagine that. They think it's fake until you see the correspondence this family did with our politicians to try to get answers. And so I think for all of us who are podcasters or veteran content creators, storytellers, it really is an honor and an incumbent on us to, for lack of a better term, write these stories on the cave wall so somebody else 100 years from now can understand where we're going. And I go back to the World War I veterans. I wish I had started podcasting 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So I could have gotten some of those. And you are absolutely right. They're starting to, according to the VA, the Vietnam era veterans are starting to die off at a faster rate than the World War II veterans because of what they went through with Agent Orange and all the other deployment there. So
A lot of aliens.
we have a labor of love in front of us, and any Vietnam veteran should know from us that they are welcome, they are loved, and we want to capture what they did for us. So I just think this is a really great forum that we're creating right now to go out and do that.
Yeah.
I would
So-
love to do that for all of us to focus on, like, you know, trying to find a Vietnam veteran that we could get on every so often just to share a story. It doesn't have to be about anything specific. They don't have to be a part of an organization or an author or anything like that. Just grab a Vietnam veteran and go, talk to me, dude. Like, just talk to me.
So I'm currently on a mission with there's 4 other nonprofit podcasters. We're all in a mission, and this is another Don Man. He has a mission, and our mission is to adopt a senior veteran, right, and take them under our wing, send them birthday cards, you know, do those kind of things, show them that we care, right?
Yeah.
I've also went to the local Calvet home, and they have a wall of all the people that are on there, what war they were there for, and a lot of them are Vietnam veterans. And you're starting to see Desert Storm up there, starting to little bit by little bit, they're starting to trickle in. But to go in there and just tell them that this generation does care, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of times they probably think that they're just there and no one cares about what they did or anything. But I want them to know, from a young devil dog, I care, right? And I learned about them. And it made me appreciate all that they've been through. And I had to go experience some things, and then I could relate it back to them and say, wow, their shit was probably 10 times worse
Yeah.
than this
Yeah,
footage,
for sure.
right? You know what I mean? So, you know, I think it's a good thing. And I think the more that we can reach out to the senior population and give them a little hope and say, hey, man, we love you guys. We talk about you guys, you
Yeah,
know,
all the
and
time, yeah.
we're proud of you guys, you know, and all those type of things.
So I work for AT&T, and I travel the city, and I get to play in the dirt all day long now, you know, after doing my other job, and now I transitioned to another job. Well, I was at a house, and the next door neighbor had Vietnam era on his hat, didn't say what branch or anything, just said Vietnam vet. And he was mowing his grass, and I was doing what I was doing. So when I got done, he was watering his flowers. So I went over to him, and I shook his hand and says, welcome home. And then I asked him what branch he was, you know, with. He said he was a Marine. As soon as he said he was a Marine from Vietnam, I found him on Facebook, and I'm actually got him. He's going to come on the show on Homefront
Nice.
Sit Rep, and he's going to tell me his stories, because he said he's got all kinds of stories to tell. But nobody really wants to listen to it. I said, well, I do. I want to
Yeah,
listen.
same.
So his name is Ron Mudd. I'm going to be reaching out to him. And once I get him on the show, I'm going to send him out to all of you guys as well, to have him on y'all's show as well, because the stories are dying away. And I'm
the
like,
more that you can get, bro, like the more stories and other veterans, you know, Vietnam veterans start watching, like, oh, they're talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, and then all of a sudden it becomes like, okay, maybe I'll talk about my shit now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if that's the part, we just need to get people talking. And once they start talking, we can get other conversations going.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
What I find is that a lot of the Vietnam guys, like, they'll tell me, because I talk a lot about the transition, but I'm also willing to highlight any veteran story. But the transition, they're like, oh, well, I got out so long ago. I'm like, they're like, I don't think my story is relevant. I'm like, no, you're like, your relevancy is like even more, because you are further on in life. How did you get to where you're at? Like, what was those lessons learned? Like, what was your realizations? Maybe our community can shortcut some of it, because you shared some of your wisdom and your knowledge to help our community. You know,
Well, and you look
that-
at, sorry,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Travis.
So that brings up an interesting point, not to shift gears, but, you know, a lot of those Vietnam veterans and some of our, you know, Desert Storm or OEF, and even the guys who didn't serve in combat, are reluctant is there's a lot of focus on, SEALs, special forces, or Green Berets. It's almost like if you're not one of those, you're not really anything in the military. And I try to tell these guys, like, maybe you weren't special forces, but that person couldn't do their job without people like you. And it's becoming a lot of people are, I don't know if a lot of people are doing it, but there's enough people reluctant because they feel like their service didn't mean much because they can't say they were, MARSOC or, a Green Beret. And I'm like, that's not right.
Agreed.
Right.
Willis
So-
wants to say that sounds so pogue of you. I see it in him.
That's
What do you, I mean, like on a serious note with that, like bringing that and bringing Nam era people on and telling their story. Think about how much wasn't dealt with them as far as their mental health and PTSD. What would that do for the current generation and in our generation as well to go, all right, now we got this badass, and you know what? He made it. He's 70 something years old now, and he's doing good. He's fighting through. What did he do to get through some of the things? What helped him? How did he thrive in life after going through what he did? I think it would be a big turn
Well, we
on
were
our
raised by a lot of them. It was take a straw and suck it up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, these people were not coddled and baby
Not at
and
all.
stuff like that, right? We've gotten to that level that we are babying and everything, and to the point where we might not even be able to fill the military because everybody's a head case and everybody's on Ritalin or ADHD medicine or whatever. I mean, everybody's going to be disqualified. I mean, the thing about it's a generational factor too, right?
Yeah.
The Vietnam era people were raised by some of the World War I and World War II veterans.
That's right.
Right. And they came from some real tough people, the people that actually built America so that we all are living in a like where people can sit at home and go grocery shopping now. People can sit at home and live their luxury. Someone worked really hard to get there to build that structure. And it was everyone that came before us. Now we're getting to that level of, well, someone else is going to do it for us. Back then, they all had to do it.
Yeah.
People had to farm and make the go out there and milk the cow. They had to go out there and plow and do all the things so they could have food.
Yeah, they were up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and
right now we're at a level of everything's getting handed to us. So everybody's just like, what can you give me? And everybody just is arms wide open, right? And no one's out there sitting there, building and making it happen.
Yeah.
They're wanting someone else to do it for them.
No, it's what can I get out of this and what are you going to do for me? And it's unfortunate. But I really do think, like, if you think about it, like even if it reaches a veteran, like each person that you have on, even if it reaches one veteran or one active military person because they heard this person's story, think about the difference that could make. I see it as it's a win-win. You're getting to carry on a story of somebody that would have taken it to their grave, and you might be helping a person or two out of it. Like that's what more could you ask for?
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off what Travis said. So when he said that, something came right to my mind. So they Mogadishu Mao, right? Somalia, Black Hawk Down, the movie, right? When you see that, they're always talking about the Rangers. It's always about the Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
But
not the 218.
not the 10th Mountain that came in and saved the Rangers' ass and then helped, get the pilots out of there. So yes, today's society, like Travis said, it's if you're not a Navy SEAL, if you're not a MARSOC Marine, if you're not Delta or what other special forces out there,
you're not glorified.
You're not glorified, and people don't realize. And then right here, 18% of military is combat arms. The other 82% is service support. 0311, we're the backbone of the Marine Corps. Infantry, backbone of the Marine Corps. Then you got your MARSOC guys, your Raiders, and your recon. But they couldn't do their job without 0311, 0331s, 0351s, and all the other infantry. But we couldn't do our job without motor T, without comm. So it's a, everybody, it is a support. So yes, we say in the Marine Corps that the 0311 is the backbone of the Marine Corps, uh, but we have our support elements that help us along the way. And today everybody glorifies the SEALs, everybody glorifies Delta Force and the Raiders and stuff, and that should not be. I mean, if you served in the military and you sign your name on that dotted line, you should be honored, regardless of what you did in the military and how long you stayed in. So, and another point that was from earlier, um, I was going to be a lifer. That was my choice. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I was going to go into the Army, and I was going to finish 20 years. That was my goal, was 20 plus years in the military. This was right when they changed the tattoo policy. You couldn't have tattoos below your elbow, and they wasn't letting people re-enlist if you had full tribal sleeves and stuff like that. So I went and talked to an armor recruiter, and then at that time I had the big Grim Reaper on my forearm because I got it during my first enlistment, and they came back with some sketchy story of, oh, well, you can't serve in the Army because you had asthmatic symptoms as a child. I'm like, bro, you let me join in the Marine Corps. And here's the kicker. The doctor at MEPS was the same doctor who let me go into the Marine Corps, was the same doctor who denied me from going in the Army.
Oh my god.
But what blasphemy is that? Because you had a tattoo below your elbow, like.
Yeah, but
Well,
that-
and now
that
you
was-
can have
that
them
was a thing.
down.
That was a big thing about
To
That was-
your
that was
wrist.
a big thing, though. That
Keep it
was
But
professional.
think about what
big
that
thing.
did to the military. Think about how many people weren't
That's
able
why
to
we're all-
continue on and retire. Like it's
Well, you got to think their way of thinking with the tattoo policy, which it was only in effect for like 6 months. I mean, it did not last very long. But here's their way of thinking. They were like, oh, well, we need budget cuts. Let's stop people from re-enlisting that have tattoos below their elbows, and let's keep it professional. And then 6 months later, they're like, oh, you can have tattoos anywhere on your body except for your face and your hands.
Yeah, standards do go up and down due to status quo, right? What do they
Right.
need? Numbers. I mean, like I said, if they start to need people, well, we're going to lower the ASVAB scores. We're going to lower, oh, forget it. You don't even got to take ASVAB no more. Just come on in. I mean,
With the
that's how it'll end up going.
tattoos, I know for the Marine Corps, they changed it because my son ended up getting one. You had to be like 2 inches above the wrist
Yep.
and like not to be seen from the
can't
collar
be seen when you're wearing
around the
it.
collarbone.
Yeah.
Because he has both. He got a full thing after, and then got one.
I never saw the point of tattoos. I don't have a tattoo. I'm never getting a tattoo. If I wanted to inject myself with dye just for fun, no. I mean, I had enough shots in the Marine Corps to last me a lifetime. I hate
watch
shots.
yourself, Travis.
You will
I hate
probably be
shots
so
too, but I like-
preserved
I don't-
from all
It
the
is a
shots in the
therapy.
Marine Corps.
Needle therapy is a thing.
It is.
Well,
Yes,
I mean, for
it
you
really
all,
is.
great. That is your therapy. That's your thing.
You should try it.
No.
I'm with you,
Try
Travis.
it. You'll like it.
That's like a root canal. I don't want to try that either. I mean, come on. But it's weird how, I guarantee you, if we took you guys back into the Revolutionary War, George Washington probably wouldn't care if you were tattooed, if you could shoot. I'm just saying.
Right.
That's why.
Yeah.
I mean, can you
He
shoot?
didn't care
Can
what
you-
team you battered for. He didn't care about none of that stuff. He's like,
Right.
can
Here's a
you,
gun. Shoot
can
down
you
that
carry
way.
this
Shoot, I mean-
this rifle?
That's why
Will you
that's
fight?
blasphemy for me. Like,
Yeah.
okay, a tattoo means you can't. Well, hey, Willis, I bet that was just the excuse for you. They tried to say asthma. It wasn't really your tattoo. They just
Michael,
they
you're
didn't want
getting
a
your
Marine in
first-
the Army.
Yeah. They
Yeah,
didn't
a lot
want
of
me
those-
in the Army.
A lot of those people that idolize the SEALs, Green Berets, and MARSOC and all that, they're probably the same people that are like, oh, I almost joined. I almost did it.
Well, what about those
Yeah.
guys going to like the fake boot camps?
I was going to
getting-
be a Marine, but
Fake boot camps?
Fake
Yeah,
boot
there's
camp.
fake
Yeah, I
boot
was like,
camps out
what?
there.
All right,
There-
explain, Travis.
Yeah.
So if you want to, and you have the $18,000 to $25,000, you can pay for like a 2-week boot camp run by military types, and be reforged. And I'm like,
Mm.
bro, isn't that
So
awesome?
you
And
can pay?
yes, you
You
pay.
pay to get beat
Wait,
down.
what type of boot camp? Is it a Marine boot camp? Is it an Army
sounds like
boot
some
camp?
parents
Is it
wanting
Air
to
Force?
I
get
will
their
put
kid
this
It's
out
right.
all
there.
different.
You could pay me 25,000. I will beat you down on my farm. You could do some farm work. I will PT you all the time. I'll get free farm
Right.
work out of it and
I
get
feel
paid.
like
I love this. Let's do it.
I feel like the Air Force is the one that should cost the most because you're staying in 5-star hotels. Like it should only be like $10 to go to the Marine one.
All right, hold on. So I'm gonna share my screen real quick
Oh.
because as
Living
soon
in
as he
shelter
said that,
house.
Oh,
it-
open up your
it's-
search history first.
No, close
Show
it.
it. Show it.
all right. So
Yes,
I went
yes.
I'm
Swipe
boot
it.
camp
Watch
for
it.
civilians. Military experiences for civilians, Camp Liberty, United States, a variety of military themed training programs and team experiences for adults, tactical, medical, and marksmanship training for uniformed professionals. Then there's Extreme SEAL Experience, military style boot camp for civilians. Then here's one, schoolofsurvivor.org, boot camp, the rise of a warrior, a real military combat camp for civilians designed to create warriors. The boot camp training program will contain the next thematic. So I'm going to click on that one because
Combat camp? Are they
All right.
shooting at each other?
Are we
What
all
the heck?
signing up to go? We're all signing up, right? We're all doing this, right?
It's,
You guys
it's
all got
dodgeball,
25 grand to
military style.
spend on this. Let's do it.
yeah,
I'm
let's
good
do
with a
it.
gun, so you know.
Hey, do they have a light limited duty group? Because I'm pretty sure I'm going to fall into that one.
Yeah,
No,
me too. Let's
This
see.
is dodgeball camp.
Well, I'm
like
old, so I
military
would
style.
definitely fall into that.
Experience the stream warrior life.
Oh, here we go. It's not for the meek. If you've never been in the woods, stay home. If you've never been cold, stay home. If you just want easy training in a flat gym with a soft, bad hotel nearby, stay home. If you are unsure that you can, man up. If you really had to, stay home. This boot camp is for those wanting to try something harder. Holy fuck.
Well, I mean, like essentially, like you're paying 18 to 20 grand to go
All
do this. If
hands
you
on.
really want to
All
experience
hands
it,
on.
just go join, and they'll pay you to do it. Like,
Right?
so,
Less than
just
minimum
go
wage.
join.
Yes, less than minimum wage.
Less
That's
than minimum
facts.
wage.
Can we,
Yeah.
Definitely
can we
less than
start our
minimum
own
wage.
dodgeball team?
Yeah. So
Virtual.
virtual dodgeball.
Ow! Who hit me?
Who hit me? Who got me?
I'm out.
I'm out. I caught it.
That was
Brian,
my
you're back
fries.
in. I caught it.
I hit somebody with fries.
Oh shit.
Ah.
All right. So
So,
what do
going-
we think?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to talk about this Bolivia attempted coup.
Oh, yeah.
Have y'all heard about that?
I have.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
Yeah, I've heard about it. So, military flees Bolivia, government palace after coup attempt fails, general taken into custody.
Why you gotta do that, Willis? You gotta be the teacher of the group. Like we were finally laughing about something. He's like, "No, I want to talk about this."
Well, I want to make sure we get all our points in, bruh.
Go eat a crown.
You're fired.
A crown?
Yeah.
He
Crayola.
wants to talk about
It's,
the coup.
it's French. Got to pronounce the ola in Crayola.
All right, so it says armored vehicles rammed the doors of Bolivia's government palace Wednesday in an apparent coup attempt, but President Luis Arce, say that fast, Luis Arce, vowed to stand
He lost
firm
his arse.
and named a new army commander who ordered troops to stand down. Soon the soldiers pulled back along with a line of military vehicles as hundreds of Arce supporters rushed the square outside the palace, waving Bolivian flags, singing the national anthem, and cheering.
That's the only
So-
reason you want to talk about it is because of
The
his name.
arse. The arse. I mean, I can't
is
get
the
past
arse.
arse.
The Arce. Yeah. No, I just, it's
It
Well,
doesn't
crazy.
say what branch.
What'd you say, Carol Lee?
It didn't say what branch.
Well, I'm assuming it's just the Bolivian military. So it doesn't say if it just says army.
It
Oh,
sounds like
okay.
Bolivian army. It definitely is not the Bolivian Marines.
Oh
With a
shit!
name like Arse, though, you know.
General
you know.
Ars is part of the army, the Bolivian army for sure.
How about that? Army arse. Hey, Willis, this is what you wanted
General
to talk
Ars.
Hey,
Keep
It
going about
is-
the coup.
about. I
So
It
feel
is
like
what
this
it
is a good subject. Pick something else.
I sent you, Willis, I sent you an email that had like 3 links on it.
Yep.
And the first one is soldiers missing from Chosin Reservoir in Bataan return home.
Yep. I'm going to share it right now. We can talk about it.
I think it kind of goes back to our conversation about, the Vietnam era and such.
Mhm.
But I thought this was really neat that a military laboratory identified the remains of 16 missing soldiers, many of whom were last seen as POWs, and they're coming home.
That's awesome. I mean, that's an awesome story. So it says here over a dozen Americans who fought and died in Bataan in World War II and at the Chosin Reservoir in Korea have been identified in recent months by a specialized military lab in Nebraska. The defense, all right, task and purpose. The Defense POWMIA accounting agency announced Monday it had identified or accounted for the remains of 16 soldiers this spring, most from one of those 2 famous battles.
Carolee, we've
no,
talked about this. You don't let the Marines read.
Hell, he's got control.
That was a little rough. Nah.
I'm sorry, man. I didn't need my crayons. But no,
Here,
that's
brother,
like,
I got some extras in here.
Oh,
Oh,
look
he
at
has
you.
plenty. He has several
The
packs over
Twistables?
there.
Well,
Casey
He's got
has a snack
pastels
attack.
and
Casey,
neons.
Air Wing Marines can read. Yes, we can.
Ah, see.
Yeah,
There you
I'm-
go.
I'm-
Learn
Travis is
something
like,
new.
I can read.
They scored a little higher on the ASVAB than the 0311s, I'm sure.
You should have joined the Air Force.
Well, and you could be like my son. He scored really high on the ASVAB and
And
wanted to
still
go
went.
in as an 0311.
Yeah, that
No,
happened
well,
too.
so I did score high in the ASVAB, and the master gunny and staff sergeant and gunnery sergeant are like, "Hey, we could put you in as a grunt, but we're
Jeremy, I
not
love
missing
the
this
Army.
opportunity. You're going into the air wing. You're going to thank us later."
Nice.
They tried.
Jeremy, that's my job to throw emotional shots like I am. Yeah, that's my job.
all
That's how I
right,
get
here's
fired.
the next one,
Jeremy,
Carol
I love
Lee.
the Army, bro.
You can read this one, Carol Lee.
Is it really
Yay.
long? Oh, okay. So
Oh.
the Air Force general faces jury court martial for the first time in history.
Oh.
So you get to scroll, though. I don't have control.
Yep.
I have no control. So this one, I've been following this for quite some time. A U.S. Air Force general is facing a jury court martial for the first time ever, answering to charges that include sexual assault. Major General Philip Stewart is accused of attacking a female officer at or near Altus Air Force Base in southwestern Oklahoma last April. Charges he pleaded not guilty to on March 21st is the first time a general's trial is being heard by a jury and the second time a general has faced a court martial. The only other Air Force general to ever be court-martialed was Major General William Cooley, who was convicted of sexual abuse by a military judge in 2022. And then it says Stewart requested a trial by a panel of his peers in March, and this is set to begin at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas on Monday. And for those of you who don't know, though, that is really difficult to have a jury of his peers because they have to be at least his rank or higher. And you don't have a group of generals all in one area, right? So they have to find them from all over the nation to come in to make up that jury.
And how many guys did that guy probably bust in his days? You know,
Oh,
the
yeah.
same exact
Well, it turned
thing.
out he ended up, if I recall, he ended up actually pleading guilty to 2 charges. Now, I don't recall what those charges were, but he
They need
ended
to
up
throw the
pleading
book
guilty.
at his ass.
Right? 100%. That
Yeah.
is completely taking advantage using your power and
Yeah.
intimidation.
Nope, you
Oh,
have a
yeah.
responsibility. No way. Yeah.
My only
Yeah, no,
thought
that's
is,
crazy.
I have to, so I don't know the case. I have to look at it, but I'm thinking Okay, he copped to the lesser charges, probably fraternization, conduct unbecoming.
Trying to get a lesser of the
But he
To
must
be a
he,
lesser
he,
of
he must
that.
think that he has an ace in the hole to pull this, because if he's going down, at best he's going to be out of the Air Force. At best,
Yeah.
at worst, he's going to spend some jail time. So he must think that he has something to prove that this was consensual and not what the plaintiff says it is. But still, you would think after Tailhook, people would get the message that this stuff's just not acceptable anymore at all. And once again, people think they're above the law.
Yeah.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, even if it was consensual, I don't think she was a general, right? I
Well,
mean,
exactly, the fraternization, which I don't know about you all,
fraternization, boom, was
we were
next.
told,
Yeah.
do not sleep around with fellow Marines. Don't sleep with junior Marines. Don't do it, period.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
set the example, sir.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like it's one of those. I know this isn't relevant, but you know, it's into our first responders, and like here in Louisville, like our police chief just got fired because of some sexual harassment stuff. And what the chief of police in Mount Washington, I don't think it's the same thing, but he just put his resignation in or
Yeah, he
forced.
resigned
And
as well. Yeah.
like this thing
Uh,
in Louisville with the LMPD, like it's
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how many of these guys end up becoming the criminal that they bust or, just got done, putting in jail for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And
well, our
I mean, we have a
LMPD
story.
chief,
We have a story just out here in LA where the cop who was on the drug force task team in the correctional department ends up being the one smuggling in the drugs.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, this is when like they were
So
doing
they catch
adult
him.
pool parties with like special victims units and like that type of units, and that's the irony of it. It's like
Yeah, like a husband and wife, they're both majors.
mhm.
So the wife came on to another female officer and said, "Hey, I don't mind if you sleep around with my husband." And now
Yeah.
they're bringing up charges against her and him. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
but then
"Bro,
he got promoted after it was brought about. Like,
yeah,
and that's where
it's
our chief messed up. And she came up from Atlanta.
yeah." So it's crazy. And then we got one more to talk about here real quick. Let's see, Carol
But
Lee.
he's
This
trying. He tries.
No, I just want to make sure we get everybody's topics talked about. So this one here, go ahead, Carol Lee.
Oh yeah.
So
I
we
wanna
were
know about
talking about, the whole punishment thing, the don't ask, don't tell. Well, soldiers now are being faced with punishment for sharing, liking extremist content on social media under new Army policy. But my question is how do they determine what's considered extremist, right? Soldiers can be more easily held accountable for liking and sharing what is considered extremist content on social media under a new policy revision unveiled by the Army on Wednesday. The new set of rules also allows disciplinary action, including being kicked out of the service for knowingly displaying flags and symbols or wearing clothing associated with radical causes, even when off duty. It's the Army's most significant move yet to curb such activity in the ranks and to more clearly define what extremism is and what conduct from soldiers won't be tolerated. The update is also the latest in a military-wide effort to combat extremist activity that began after veterans and some service members were among the throngs of protesters who stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 2021 and tried to disrupt the certification of presidential election results to keep Donald Trump in the White House. Yeah.
Wow, I was.
I like
we
that
think that's
question
what they
though.
were referring to. I thought they were more talking about what was going on with this whole Syrian thing, and because I mean, you see how involved everybody's getting with that in our country. I thought that they were more like not talking about the whole January 6th thing that happened.
Right.
I thought they were talking more present, but that's crazy.
Well, to your
But
point,
I like that
Brian,
question though. How do you pick, as far as other than that? How do you pick what's considered extremist? Like what?
Well, anything I would
Well,
think
so
that
whatever
goes
the
against whatever
government-
the narrative
Right
is of the
here.
day.
Yeah, it's whatever the government deems, right? I mean,
Right.
just
But, like, our
just like with
conversation
a lot of
seems
the
to be
things going on. I see that
controversial.
this is coming out around the time when all the stuff that's going on in Ukraine, Russia. We got this with Syria, and all these things that are going on now, I could tell it's getting really squirmy in America, right? Where people are now starting to side with known radicalist groups and stuff like that. It's crazy how much more the U.S. is getting involved in foreign shit, right? We're sitting here fighting here in our own country for stuff that we can't even change.
Yeah.
I don't
Travis,
want
go
to
ahead.
hear. I don't want to hear how somebody who wore, the Hamas flag or, other terrorist colors gets butthurt when an employer denies them employment. I mean, I just don't want to hear it.
Right.
It's a proven fact. I can look this up where the FBI considers us as veterans a potential threat vector in domestic terrorism activities, just by the fact that we're a veteran. You and
Yep.
I cannot do a thing, but the more firearms we own or the more patriotic we are, we're on the cusp, right? So to your point, Carolyn, what is the threshold for being an extremist? And if it's subjective, like the military can be, you could have a lieutenant come in there and say, well, you flew the American flag or you flew the Betsy Ross, so I don't like you. I'm going to kick you out. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's a slippery slope.
There's a lot of things that have happened that we didn't think would ever happen.
True.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what talking head decides, what's extreme and what's not extreme, because if you're a Democrat or if you're a Republican, which
I'm
here's
not
my
Marine.
thing. Sorry, I had a frog in my throat or something. Regardless of where you stand in your political values, if you're against the left or if you're against the right, you can be considered an extremist. Now, there are some militias out here in our country that are patriotic because they love our country. And for me, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm somewhere in the middle because I agree with some things the Republicans say. I agree with some things the Democrats say. So I'm in the middle, and I am. I would consider myself a patriot of this country because I served my country and I would defend this country until the day I die. But I also, if it gets to the point where the government is overstepping, I can see a shit ton of veterans stepping up and saying, hey, the government's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is the way the Constitution is written. That's why we have the 2A, the right to protect.
The laws now are all against it, bro. Like you can't fight tyranny anymore. You'll be a domestic terrorist if you try to even stand up to it, bro. I mean, honestly, we the people have failed ourselves. We the people have failed ourselves, allowing these lawmakers to pass these laws that prevent us from ever standing up against a radical government. And now we're in here with vested people that sit here for 20 plus years in office, bro. Like their party goes out the window after a certain point. They just care about where their money lies and, what did you vote this time? If you vote this, I'm gonna vote that, right? Okay, cool.
Right.
Yeah. I'll invest in yours if you invest in mine. Yeah. I mean, we've become to that level, unfortunately, and unless we, the people, at some point in time say, no, we're going to take this back. You guys work for us. We don't work for you, right? But that's the level that they want us all to be, right? They want us all to be governed. They want us to live under the paycheck, all those kinds of things.
And Jeremy says,
yeah, he is.
You're alive and Uncle Sam is listening.
Always. So, okay, can one of you Marines explain to DJ Play Nice about what the UCMJ is?
So UCMJ is a Uniform Code of Military Justice. It's basically the military's laws. So you can't
their laws.
It's their law.
It is different to normal laws.
Yeah.
So,
to any civilian law, completely.
Yes.
The U.S. is founded on British common law, except for Louisiana, which is French common law. So that's the law that we operate underneath. And to David and Brian, the Uniform Code of Military Justice is all the branches, Coast Guard, Space Force included.
Everything.
That's so hard, isn't it?
Everything.
Literally.
Across the board.
She's like, I can't hold it.
I was watching Travis's face.
It's the truth. It's the truth, right? So the law applies to all those branches, and there are certain things, regardless of rank or which branch you're serving in, that, right, guys, that you break the law on a Coast Guard base, it's the same if you broke it onto an Air Force or Marine Corps base. And they're weird little rules that we have to follow that civilians don't.
Yeah.
There's maritime
NJR
law
is-
too, but that's when you're on a naval ship. That's a whole nother.
Oh, right. Right.
There's a whole other set of laws on a ship too.
On a
by
ship, yeah.
And
the
isn't like the
captain.
captain like really? It's almost
could-
like
he could hold they could hold a court martial and everything on a ship.
Yep.
the captain's like a really powerful. Once the ship leaves
Oh, hell yeah.
international waters, the
Hell
captain
yeah.
really is a powerful entity.
Oh,
He
yeah.
is
He's the
law.
president, bro. He's the the president. I mean, at that point in time when he's out on ship.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's so many different rules and regulations within the military, and they go by Uniform Code Military Justice. Is so, like, for prime example, fresh out of School of Infantry, we were up in Bridgeport, California, and our company commander, our platoon commanders, our platoon sergeants were all in a huddle. A meeting. We were getting ready to do Nightland Nav, so they tell us the whole company to fall out on this road. So we're sitting there waiting. A few of us are smoking cigarettes. During this little meeting, the company commander says, "All right, we're in a semi-tactical environment, so no smoking." He gets done with his meeting. He walks up to the road where we're falling out in formation, and 6 of us are smoking a cigarette. Well, he gives us a NJP, non-judicial punishment. So basically for disobeying a superior commissioned officer, even though our platoon commanders and platoon sergeants hadn't came out and told us what he said in the meeting. So when we got done with our training evolution and we went down to the barracks, they pulled us all. So I lost half month's pay. Restricted to barracks for a half a month. So that's things that they can do. And depending on the severity of your discretion, they can, 6 months without pay. You can lose rank. You can go to the brig. So it's their laws.
And let me tell you
what, when war happens, there is even another set of war laws, right?
ROEs.
Now you could, if you disobey an order in war, it could be punishable by death.
Yep.
It could be punishable by death. I mean, there's a whole set. Yeah, I know it will blow your mind, but that is a true thing.
What kind of death? Is that like electric chair? Is that bullet to the head? Is that like
Execution?
waterboarding?
They can do whatever. I mean,
squad.
They can execute you right there on the spot. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
think
you were
anybody's
talking, Willis, about NJPs, and funny story. Grant and his original first sergeant in Lima Company were not getting along. And first sergeant was in his face about something, and Grant responded, I think he said, "Oorah." And that was not what he wanted to hear. And he NJP'd him. And
yeah, because it means fuck you sometimes. Oorah could mean like,
yeah.
Oorah, fuck off. Like, I mean, it can mean
well, and but it was the reason why is because they were trying to get him to just quit, because it was still within the 180-day time frame. And it's like, don't do it. Don't do it. You take whatever they're going to give you, whatever punishment, and move on. But the next time they start playing these stupid games, or as he called, I can't say the word because the FF games.
Oh yes.
I told him, because this mom had enough. So
the Marine Corps has more games than Mattel. So.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I mean, you guys are getting like NJP'd and stuff, man. My lieutenant saw that the desert was bountiful in sand, and we could, you know what? You guys don't want to play along.
We did in-house punishment It was always in-house
I
punishment.
want
in our
100
platoon.
sandbags filled in 4 hours. Or
Yeah.
you know
Ugh.
what?
Yeah.
I want a hole dug 8 feet by 4 feet deep and move that sand somewhere else. Oh, you know what? Put that sand back where it is. And it was really effective versus get paperwork. So,
Yes.
man,
Well,
I mean,
so my
Look, time
captain.
out. I just had to walk away because now I have to give myself away. I had to go pee, but I could hear you from the bathroom, and I almost missed Carol Lee cussing.
No, I didn't cuss. I said
I
did
FF.
know.
she did not. She held true.
What's the
So
name of that book?
Let me show you. Because
She has the best book ever.
I
But
do
anyway, the
actually.
captain that I had, we called him Adolf Schweitzer. His last name was Schweitzer, so we called him Adolf Schweitzer because he literally was right up NJP happy. But needless to say, he is also the captain that was relieved of duty in South Korea
I was
when we
gonna
were.
say friendly fire.
Oh yeah, he got relieved of duty because we were on a 11-day field op in South Korea outside of Pohang, and it was raining monsoon season. It rained the whole 11 days we were in the field. The Rock Marines went back to base and said, "See you later." Battalion commander sends trucks for us to walk to get back in to go back to base because we had no dry gear. Company commander says, "No, we're humping back 25 miles." When we got back to base, there was maybe 3 people in formation with the company commander. Battalion commander was sitting at the front gate waiting on us, and he got relieved of duty right there on the spot. Got shipped back stateside.
Mm. Look,
All right, you ready for this,
Carol Lee has
Candace?
an awesome book that everybody should read.
I can't read the title.
Nobody
you got to
can
read it to
You
us.
gotta tell us what it is, Carol Lee. We can't read
Oh,
it.
come on now. The
You got to read
perfect.
it to us.
We really
Oh,
can't.
Nothing like.
Candace, you're putting me on the
Come
spot.
on,
It
Carol
is
Lee.
all right. Only this time.
The
She does
perfect
this to
fucking
me.
life is what it looks like.
That is what it is. It's an anthology by
it?
Jason Lee Morrison.
What's it called, Carol Lee? Shush it,
The-
Travis.
The perfect effing life.
Oh no! Oh no! It didn't work. She's done it. It's so great.
I have 2 Marines, right? And I'm teaching them. They're learning when they come home for leave and
was gonna
and
say,
such.
F
when-
is their favorite word.
And they got in trouble when if they did not cuss in boot camp. I'm not kidding you.
Oh.
That sounds about right.
Mama,
Yeah,
come
yeah.
on. It sounds so good when you say it, and that author loves it. Like, you got to promote that
He
book.
actually probably does. Jason Lee Morrison, great guy. And all right. I watch my the blood pressure. The perfect fucking life.
Yeah.
That had to feel good. That had to feel good.
I only ever get to that point, like
There's
when
a
I'm
Marine
like,
in there somewhere trying to get out.
I know when I'm mad. I mean, like
That's how she
extreme.
birthed Marines.
Yeah.
I heard, I had a couple people tell me
I'm sure
that
they
I
make
am
up
very
for the F words.
intimidating. And I'm like, but I'm not one to cuss. I, try and be nice to everybody. And I think it's just like this resting bitch face that I
Well, is there anything else that we want to talk about tonight?
I think it's a great face, Carol Lee.
Aw, thanks, Candace.
Well,
You hit
that's
all
a good way to
mine.
end it. I think that's a
So-
good note to end it on.
Yep, it's a good note to end it on. That the perfect.
We can talk about
fucking life.
Chris creeping in a neighborhood.
Who?
Chris.
Oh, oh,
She can't.
I
say-
can exactly. I know. Yeah, because that refers like directly to me. So
All right, so we're gonna wrap it up. What we're gonna do is we're gonna let everybody do closing statements. Let's start with Mr. Brian Roof with Every Day's a Saturday, USMC veteran.
Hey, I say how I always say it on my show: don't let the day kick your ass. Make sure you're out there kicking the day's ass.
Awesome. All right, next, Candace.
Focus on our non-vets. Like, welcome them home. And don't sweat the small stuff. All you end up with small, sweaty stuff.
Let's do Carol Lee next.
well, join me on Tuesdays from 6 p.m. 5 to 6 p.m. Central Time on Veteran Voice Radio, Semper Fi Country. I'll be DJing that now starting next Tuesday.
Awesome.
So, and yeah, outside of that, y'all, reach out to a veteran and let them know you're there for them.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Travis. Oh, let's go back to the stage. Mr. Travis.
You are more powerful and you're stronger than you could possibly imagine. You just have to believe, and I believe in you.
Love it. Love it. All right, guys. I am Mr. Willis, host of Homefront Sit Rep, also Tip the Spear Veteran Roundtable. I want to thank all of our guests out there that came in chat, that's been interacting with us this whole night. It's our pleasure to serve you guys just as well as you guys coming on here and interacting and serving us. It's our therapy. And like we always say, stay safe out there, and we got your six.